Welcome to a small town in Iran. Foulad Shah was burning last night. The numbers of protesters are small, but uprising in the likes of Foulad Shah could be big trouble for the regime. They're shouting Magbar Dictator, death to the dictator. And that's not good news for Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and his iron fist, the Revolutionary Guards.
We want freedom! We want freedom!
In 2009, millions took to the streets of Tehran to protest against vote rigging. So why should much smaller numbers in 2018 pose a problem?
What they thought was a controlled burn has essentially spread into a wildfire that you're seeing in cities and provincial towns, places we haven't really seen protests since the 1979 revolution. And I think that's really interesting to note, especially when you look at the numbers. Whereas you had like millions of people taking the streets of Tehran, you're finding that hundreds, at most a few thousand people are taking to the streets right now. And I think that's interesting to note. While the numbers aren't big, the geography is.
This map, produced by opponents of the regime, points to how widespread the protests are. This is an uprising from across the country, but even more toxic to the powers that be in Tehran, it's coming from below.
Many of these cities, even Iranians don't know where they are. They're small towns. And what we know about these demonstrators is that they are poor. Many of them voted for Rouhani a few months ago. They are disappointed in him, in President Rouhani. Many of them did not vote. They do not have a leader, but they're frustrated. They're angry, and they want change.
But the regime does not. These are its motorbike warriors, out on the streets of Tehran to keep things the way they are. Their master, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, blames, amongst others, Western spies.
Following recent events, the enemies have united and are using all their means, money, weapons, policies and security services to create problems for the Islamic Republic.
His president, Hassan Rouhani, took a more sober tone, calling the protests an opportunity, not a threat. Donald Trump has been banging the drum for regime change. So has he once again identified an angry working class base?
Whether we want it or not, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And as such, many Iranian protesters, they want to hear from him. They want the support of the American president. Whether it's Barack Obama, George Bush, or Donald Trump, they want the American president, British Prime Minister, leaders of different countries support their movement.
This was the scene outside the Iranian embassy today. The people making their noise here are quite different to the demonstrators back in Iran, the people who are driving this latest uprising. Historically, it's been the well-travelled, the people with passports, the wealthy, who've tried to overthrow the regime in Tehran. This time, it's the poor. This time, it's the base. And that's what makes it so dangerous for the regime and also so difficult to cool. But how deep is the hunger for actual revolution?
And they don't really have to look far to understand what could potentially happen to Iran. I mean, the Arab uprisings in 2011 are a perfect example. Egypt, Libya, and Syria, which the Iranian government has a hand in, is a perfect example of a situation they don't want Iran to turn out to be.
The new year hasn't started so well for the Supreme Leader and his iron fist. Too much force, too much blood spilt will drive the uprising. Too little, and the regime could lose control.